Uh, I'm here at the Low Carbon Vehicle Conference, and I'll tell you, this guy Lou, standing in front of me, just gave a very inspirational speech about the way kind of energy requirements are going. Lou, just talk a little bit about who you are and what you do, and so on.
Yeah, I'm Lou Fulton. I work for the International Energy Agency in Paris, and we are a place where energy ministers meet and talk about energy-related things. I work on transport and energy.
And some of the things that you said in your piece today were about actually transport emissions are looking like they're set to grow pretty radically, especially from developing countries. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What you think is going to happen?
That's right. We have a situation where with economic growth, we're going to get a lot more vehicles. People are going to be, we're still at a stage where maybe 1 in 100 people own cars in some countries, and this is going to grow. China's probably up now to about 50 cars per 1,000 people. It's going to grow to 300-400 cars per 1,000 people over the next 20-30 years, and this is going to happen all over the world. So it means a rapid increase in energy demand from vehicles. We estimate that unless we change direction, we're going to see a doubling of energy use over the next 40 years.
Ouch. And what does that mean for public transport and everything else? I mean, you think this is just in the personal car and personal transit and so on?
Almost all the growth comes from personal cars and two-wheelers in a lot of countries. We think transit will grow slowly, but that means it's going to lose market share pretty substantially to cars as the cars just explode in different places. So, it's not as though we're not going to have buses anymore. It's just that their market share is going to keep declining, and their share of passenger travel is going to keep declining unless we change course and invest in much better, much more extensive transit systems, especially in the developing world.
Okay, so we're beginning to see infrastructure here in the UK with EV charging points. I can drive into my garage and charge up while I go to work at the moment in the West End of London. It's beginning to work. You can't get enough of it, and you can't run a cable outside of a house if you live in a flat in London. So there are lots and lots of logistical problems with switching to EV technology, certainly, and I can't see hydrogen being very well in place in the near future. Do you think there are any solutions out there?
Well, we do see, basically we're going to need a combination. We're going to need much more efficient vehicles. We're going to need as much investment in transit systems as we can get, but we're still going to need new fuels and new kinds of technologies for vehicles, and electric vehicles are definitely looking like they're going to be an important part of the mix over the next, beginning now, and with rapid growth, they can begin to be an important element of the whole picture, at least in places like Europe, maybe by 2020.
Do you have a feeling about where the balance is? Hydrogen?
Hydrogen, right. Well, we're not, a lot of people have sort of given up on hydrogen and fuel cells. We haven't. At the IEA, we still see it as a very important technology. We think probably we're going to need about 10 more years of good R&D and testing on fuel cell systems and things like onboard hydrogen storage before they're really ready to go. So they're kind of going to, we think they're going to come in later than electric vehicles. But for example, when we get out into the after 2020 timeframe, there may come a point where a good plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which is fairly decarbonized, the last step to fully decarbonize that vehicle is to swap out the internal combustion engine and put in a fuel cell. So as we go out in the future, we still think that there could be an important role for fuel cells.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. And what about the cost, the general cost of EV and battery technology? Do you think that's going to work for the developing world in the future?
I think we have to face the fact that electric vehicles are pretty expensive right now, and are probably too expensive, except for very small models, very simple models. For example, in the developing world, China is targeting 200,000 electric vehicles in the next 2 years. China is getting rich very quickly, but a lot of these electric vehicles will be very simple, basically quadricycles, sort of golf cart types of things. But that's fine, because for a lot of their gasoline vehicles are like that right now. So if they come at it from that direction, I think there's a good niche there. But the key thing with electric vehicles will be to get the scale going and bring the cost of batteries down. And I think when we get the cost of batteries down by about half, or maybe even by 2/3 of today's price, we think right now lithium-ion batteries are probably about $700 to $900, sort of 500 to 700 euros per kilowatt hour. This has to come down to under 300. And if we can do that over the next 5 years, that will be a game changer, and I think then we'll be ready for really rapid expansion of electric vehicles all over the world.
Wow. And what about natural resources and, the stripping of lithium around the world and so on? Where are we on that?
It's a concern. If we have a scenario with very rapid increases in demand and sales of electric vehicles, we could find some choke points for lithium. It's really a question of whether whether we get the investments in lithium production that keep up with demand growth. On the other hand, we could have a lithium bubble if the investments there happen and we don't have the electric vehicle demand growth, so you never know what's going to happen. But over the next 40 years, there should be enough lithium, there should be enough rare earth metals on the planet. These will become quite important strategic resources, and I think we will be, we would be smart to find alternatives. For example, I think lithium-ion batteries are fine. Probably 10 to 15 years from now, we'll be getting into some other kinds of batteries. So hopefully we're not going to get too dependent on any one resource as we move forward.
Lou, I hope we can work it out. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.